Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica from the 104.5 The Zone studios. The Tennessee Titans continue to make roster moves this week, sending defensive back Elijah Molden to the Los Angeles Chargers in exchange for a 2026 seventh-round pick. The Titans also continue to tinker with the 53-man roster, yesterday cutting tight end Nick Vanette and outside linebacker Rashad Weaver. Rand Carthon said yesterday in a press conference they will look to bring Vanette back to the 53, and Brian Callahan said this morning they'll look to bring back Rashad Weaver to the practice squad. The team also made the Ernest Jones IV trade official, the former LA Rams linebacker. He will wear number 53. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
It's a Tennessee Football Thursday here on Blaine and Zach on 104.5 The Zone. Come talk ball or hell. If you want to air your grievances, call in to 615-737-1045 or talk to us on the F&M Bank chat wherever you consume Zone TV on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, or Facebook Live. We got a loaded show today at 2:20 p.m. We got Justin Melo, managing editor of Titansize.com. He's going to sit down with us to talk all the Titans roster moves and such. And at 2:45 p.m., we'll be joined in studio by Audrey Kidd, executive director of Saddle Up, to talk about the upcoming charity event, Chuckers for Charity. But first, as soon as we got off the air yesterday, it's like national media did not want us to talk about the Elijah Molden trade. Because soon as right as I pack up my bag,
deadline, 3:00.
Yeah, as soon as I pack up my bag, get everything all situated, I'm yelling down the hallway at a radio station, which may not be good. I don't know if people can hear you when you're yelling, but at least you did, Blaine.
They heard me.
I yelled, they traded Elijah Molden right after we get off the air. So it was a little bit of a surprise, but they were loaded at safety. They kept signing safeties and push them down the depth chart and all that. Earlier today, Rand Carthon was on the Buck Reisen show just 20, 30 minutes ago.
Lucas, yeah.
And he talked with Lucas and Buck about the Elijah Molden trade.
Well, it was a opportunity for us. The Chargers called and they were interested in Elijah, and Elijah's been around here for a couple years now and has done some good things here. But he was getting passed up, on our roster, and there was a situation where we would have kept Elijah, but the opportunity for us to add a draft pick, coming into this preseason prior to, and some of the moves we've made, we only had 5 draft picks. And so, you need more at-bats to, continue to improve the roster. And if you look at some of the guys that we've added, in rounds 5 through 7, these last 2 years. Last year it was, you get Josh Wally in 5, Jalen Duncan in 6, and Colton Dowell in 7. And this year you get Jarvis Brownlee in 5, Jaquan Jackson in 6, and Jalen Harrell and James Williams in 7. So we want to make that a staple of our program and how we're going to go about it. So, it was an opportunity to add some more of those late round picks, to allow us to continue to improve this roster moving forward.
So that was Rand Carthon on the Buck Reisen show with Buck and Lucas. And
Buck just came here. He forgot his car keys.
Forgot his car keys.
How could he forget your keys?
He tried to steal my computer charger when he left as well. That probably got him all flustered when I called him out on that. But that was Rand Carthon talking about the Elijah Molden trade. Earlier this morning at the, I guess what John Glennon dubs Breakfast with Brian, where the reporters get to sit down with Brian Callahan, but they don't record anything. Brian Callahan was asked about the trade, Elijah Molden trade, and he used some similar terminology. We felt good about the players brought in at safety, felt like we could pick up a draft pick for a guy like Elijah Molden who'd been passed up a bit, which is the same phrase that Rand Carthon used. He gets a fresh start somewhere else. I talked about it on Football and Other F Words here on the 104.5 Zone podcast network last night, and to me, it's a win-win scenario. You would have liked to have seen Elijah Molden stay because he provides versatility, especially when your cornerback room is only down to 4. You need a little bit of versatility that he can maybe provide in the slot or covering tight ends, around in the box. But he gets a fresh start with a defensive-minded, or no, he's not defensive-minded because he's offensive-minded, but Jim Harbaugh's teams are always going to have good defenses. And he has Jesse Minter over there, who is a Mike McDonald, protege, and Mike McDonald. Yeah, Mike McDonald had a fantastic, defense over in Baltimore. So Elijah Molden kind of fits that mold.
Oh, okay. When was it when Jesse was on his staff?
Yeah, in Michigan as well. So he took over for Mike McDonald after he left for the Baltimore Ravens job.
Okay.
So in my mind, I'm thinking this is a good move for Elijah Molden. He'll see some considerable action. Whereas here, they even said he was passed up on the depth chart, and there's likely that you weren't going to see a lot of Elijah Molden, and Elijah Molden played a lot in preseason, a lot more than you would suspect, but he was in there a lot in preseason. That kind of raised my eyebrows a little bit, and then we'll talk a little bit about Justin Melo, but Justin Melo put out a tweet yesterday saying that he was, a little disgruntled with his situation, so at least they got something out of Elijah Molden.
Yeah, well, as I was saying all off season and even during preseason, the coach's actions, and then we could talk about coaches or Rand and his staff, by bringing in the safeties, let you know what they actually thought of you. We all know Hooker is a $10, $11 million safety, so they weren't doing it for him. So they didn't believe that he could be a starter in this system. So that's why I kept saying he's a tool player. I call him a, 3-4 tool player. It's baseball terminology there. But he can do a lot of different things. As you mentioned, he can play nickel, dime. I think his days are numbered as a cornerback after the 2 groin surgeries. I think he kind of lost a little bit of speed, but he turned into physical. He could playmaker. So I thought he'd be a great, security blanket, and guy you could put with all the passing game and 3 wide receivers. You would need a guy like that. So in reality, I didn't think he was ever going to play. So you could say he could be disgruntled a little bit, but he may have voiced his opinion based off of what he's seen through his agent, not necessarily him. So I never like when someone puts out information like that because you don't know if it's true or not. If he was disgruntled, so I don't like stuff like that. All I want to do is say, hey, he had a good run here. Unfortunately, he got passed up, as they said, and we moved on from him. That's it. It's a good solid player. Because if they couldn't move on, were they going to cut him? Do you think they were going to cut him?
No, well, Rand Carthon said that, they were, it sounded like according to what Rand Carthon alluded to, it sounded like that they were going to keep him. I mean, he made the initial 53 for a reason.
Easy to say that after the fact, right? But yeah.
But it sounded like what Rand Carthon says, like, hey, we'd like to have kept him here. We probably would have kept him on the roster. I can't remember what the exact words that he used on Buck's show just now, but he said something to that effect. So I would think that Elijah Molden would stay because they kind of need that guy to be there for the defensive back kind of fill in.
Right.
Someone goes down with an injury, here comes Elijah Molden.
Right.
You'd rather have Elijah Molden than Mike Brown, wouldn't you?
Right, I would. Yeah. And so to me, I like players like that. And I've kept saying in the beginning, I don't think he's a starter in the National Football League at safety, but he is definitely a utility player in this league and can do that for a very, very long time. Those guys are very valuable.
Here's the exact phrasing.
Just imagine this though: if they keep bringing in somebody for Reed, and then they bring another guy in for Reed, what are they actually telling you?
Yeah.
Well, Reed, you may be looking somewhere else.
Man, poor Reed. He's catching strays back there behind the glass. This is the exact phrasing that Justin Melo used on his tweet. I was told by a team source that Elijah Molden was unhappy in Tennessee. Now he's been traded to the Chargers, hence the Julius Wood waiver claim. So that's exactly disgruntled may have been the wrong word, but he was definitely unhappy.
Right. And how could you not be? As a competitor, as an athlete, I don't care what profession you're in, even in the corporate ladder, you're not going to be happy if they keep bringing in people doing your job and you feel like you've earned the right to, this is his contract year. Think about that also.
Yeah.
He wanted to show that he could be a starter in this league, and he felt like this was the opportunity. Instead, the team didn't think he was a starter in this league, as I kept saying he wasn't. And so I'm looking at it from his eyes, and so they kept bringing in people, Diggs, Jamal Adams. They're telling you, their actions always tell you what they're thinking.
That's kind of where I land. Earlier today, they also mentioned in this breakfast with Brian that Mason Kinsey was like on the border when it comes to the decision of him making the roster or not. They've obviously liked Mason Kinsey, but listen, we talk about actions, right?
Mm-hmm.
They could have put Cedric Gray. If they wanted Mason Kinsey to make the 53, they could have found a way to do it, right?
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, they love him. They think he's great. They love his energy, like you were talking about. They love his energy and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, they still put him on the practice squad, even though they could have found a way to do it. You tell me that they couldn't have, cut Rashad Weaver over Mason Kinsey, instead of cutting Mason Kinsey. You tell me that they couldn't put Cedric Gray on one of those injury lists before, which they are allowed to do, instead of having him make the 53, then putting him on the list. Walks like a practice squad player, talks like a practice squad player. You're a practice squad player.
Yeah, I think, and they
It's 4 or 5 years in a row that we've heard
and
great
I think they got that
reviews.
right too as well. So,
Yes.
So I think he's a guy that especially at this point in time, because his confidence level is at an all-time high. We saw it at practice every day with him catching, talking smack all day, and really proving himself in practice. In games, not so much.
Yeah.
But he definitely earns the right to be where he's sitting, and they feel comfortable if something happens to some of the receivers, that if they needed to move him up or a punt returner, that he's more than capable of getting it done. So, I think he may not be happy with that. As an athlete, most aren't, and I get that. But they could have easily said he was disgruntled.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
They
But they
easily
didn't.
could have said it.
Yeah, because he
poked fun on
he
himself.
wasn't a draft pick.
Yeah,
See, that's the difference.
there you go.
Third round pick.
Yep. He poked fun at himself, even on Twitter, posting a meme about him coming back. So that's just,
He was toasting guys all over the place too. It didn't matter what team they were practicing against.
Right.
He was getting
but he does that every year. And every year we hear the same stuff. And at some point, actions speak louder than words. Am I right?
Yeah.
So I'm with you on that. When we come back, we are going to talk about the parallels between Levis and Nico in 2024 in terms of Tennessee football and their team success. I'm Zach. He's Blaine. This is Blaine and Zach on 104.5 The Zone.
Hey, this is Blaine Bishop, and I want to know if you have heard about peptides. Peptides are shaking up the fitness world, and they are naturally occurring aminos in our bodies. And as we age, they start to decline, and at some point, they may need to be supplemented. This is why our workouts can stop being productive at the gym. So maybe you feel like you've hit a wall, or perhaps you feel tired all the time. You may be struggling to stay awake even in the evenings when you get home from work. So if you had the thought that this is just a normal part of aging, it doesn't have to be that way. Peptides are proven to increase muscle and performance, burn fat, and help with recovery between workouts and more. And peptides can even help with motivation and mental clarity. These are safe, naturally occurring aminos, not pharmaceuticals. A natural and holistic way to get your body back to peak performance. Plus, Edge Peptide Therapy has the most comprehensive blood panel around. So when you go to Edge, you will know exactly what is going on inside of your body and what it needs to get back to peak performance, just like I did. So feel better from the inside out. So go to edgepeptide.com. Yes, that's edgepeptide.com. Or you can give them a call at 615-724-1878. That's 724-1878.
I love living in Middle Tennessee. We've got great restaurants, entertainment, sports, and one of the nation's top Ford dealers right here in our backyard. Two Rivers Ford. Remember that name. Two Rivers has been a staple in our community since 1983. They're locally owned. They have a non-commissioned sales team, and they sell below MSRP. They've been doing business with integrity for decades. Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer.
We're running down a dream on this Tennessee Football Thursday here on Blaine and Zach on 104.5 The Zone. Remember, you can call in at 615-737-1045, talk Tennessee Titans or your Tennessee Volunteers who have a football game this weekend. Kickoff at 11:45 versus University of Tennessee and Chattanooga, UTC. Join us on the F&M Bank chat wherever you consume your Zone TV on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Blaine, we do see Kyle on the line, but I do want to, before we talk some more Tennessee Titans, I do want to talk about Nico. I want to talk about these quarterbacks, Nico and Will Levis. And we talked about, I think it was roughly last week, off air, about the parallels between the 2024 football seasons. Listen, I understand that most football teams across America, or a lot of football teams across America, professional and college, rely on their quarterback's health. But some teams are able to overcome that with maybe a really good defense, a really good run game, elite other aspects that don't just rely on their quarterback. It seems like to me this Tennessee Titans 2024 season, this Tennessee Volunteers 2024 season is ride or die on the quarterbacks. If Will Levis goes down, it just seems highly unlikely that Mason Rudolph is going to be able to take you into the playoffs. And I'm talking early. Like maybe if they're already like eight wins and then Mason Rudolph has to come in. If Nico is not the prince that was promised and he's not as good or he gets injured fairly early, that could be Tennessee's, season down the drain. College, they're both teams' playoff hopefuls are attached to the quarterback. Do you agree or disagree?
Man, that's a kind of an interesting parallel because there's so many different dynamics that are different from pro to college, but the dependent on the quarterbacks are all the same. I would say that the Titans have a better chance to survive that if it was for a 3 or 4 game window.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're referencing as far as if they're out for the season and things like that, because we've seen on another team, Mason Rudolph actually do really well with the Steelers there this last season. I think he 5-1?
Right.
And they made the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I would say they're probably in more of a better position because they have someone who is proven that they can win. Now, what they can do in the playoffs is a total other story. Where Nico is, he's unproven, but if they got injured, they got a guy who knows the system from UCF. I forgot Gaston. What's his name? It starts with a Reed. What's his name?
Gaston Moore,
who's, when he's gotten out there, actually looks like he functions the offense better than actually Nico at this point. Now, is his talent level the ceiling Nico? No. So I think you don't want to do that if you're Tennessee to survive more than probably a game, especially you're in the SEC, so it's the lead of the league. So I would say that the Vols are a little bit more trouble than the Titans because of the proven mechanism. If it was Malik Willis and no Rudolph, I would say it would be the exact same.
Gotcha.
But with Rudolph and his experience, not to say he's a starter quarterback in this league, but he definitely has started and proven he can win in this league. So I value that a lot. So I think it's a little bit different there.
This Tennessee Volunteers football team is in an interesting SEC arms race because they're not. It's like it's Georgia. And then like a step down is Texas, and then like a little step down is Alabama, and then it's like Ole Miss, Missouri, maybe LSU, but it's Tennessee, Ole Miss, and Missouri, like right there.
Yeah, I agree.
And they're in this arms race, and that's why it's really important that Nico is not only who everyone says he is, which is sometimes it's hard to live up to those expectations. We see 5-star, 4-star college kids, come in with all this hype and fanfare and sometimes flame out just all across the nation. It's, it's really hard sometimes for these judges. There's nothing to suggest that he's going to flame out, but you have to see him succeed because this SEC middle class arms race could determine who is the fourth SEC team represented in the college football playoffs.
So he could keep them from making the playoffs.
He could keep them from making it
into the guy
because it comes down to one. These teams, those three teams, Missouri. To me, these are the three middle class teams that can make the playoffs, upper middle class, if you will. Missouri,
Ole Miss,
and Tennessee, and those games. And these SEC games in general, all across the board, are going to come down to one drive, one play. And this is an inexperienced quarterback with all the talent in the world. And this defense has a good pass rush. The secondary is a little suspect for the University of Tennessee.
Well, unproven guys yet in the SEC. So
a little suspect right now, but we'll see. They have a chance to be something, but we got to call a spade like a spade. And right now, if they can't stop a drive and Nico can't score on the other drive, that could be a determining factor. Like you have to figure out that delicate balance and figure out how you can be the team that avoids that one missed opportunity on one drive in one game.
What do you think, Reed? I know you're a big Tennessee guy. What do you think about what Zach just said?
I'm not sure. Like, I would think Gaston Moore could come in and help the Vols. But I think the Titans are way more set up if Levis goes down. Because, you got talent around besides Levis that I think he would be able to just come. Mason would just be able to come in. I think you got to watch out for the freshmen if you're Gaston Moore in Tennessee. I think Merklinger, I think is his name. I'll have to look it up. But I think if Nico goes down, I think it's a toss-up, but Gaston Moore goes in first. I think, like I said, the Titans are more set up for
because of the
success because of the experience.
Yeah. So, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be, they may be a play away, the development of Nico and him being clutch in critical situations. So that's why you want him to gain experience, and that's why they have the schedule set up the way they do.
Yep.
But, you still want to come away with wins. And I think the offense of style of Hypo and crew really benefits him too, because guys aren't going to be lined up. They're going to be gassed. They're going to be running this thing full steam ahead. I think it'll be a little bit faster than Milton. I don't know if it'll ever get to the level what Hooker finished up there. That was awesome to watch. Who Hooker, by the way, won the number 2 job as we all thought. So I'm interested to see how well he does in consistency he does with the flow and the mechanism of running this style offense, because once it gets flowing, it really starts clicking and it could be something special to behold. So I'm interested to see if he can really master the offense in game. You know, we could talk about practice and all the other things, but in a game to see how well he does. And we'll see it even against Chattanooga, even if he only plays, half the game or whatever it may be. If he gets into a rhythm and a flow, it's not that he's playing an SEC team, but has he mastered all the things about the offense? So I think he actually can. Just to be a matter, can he? I'm more worried about if he could stay healthy.
Listen,
and it has nothing to do. He's a slithery. Yeah. You can be thin and you can still be strong. But I think sometimes when you're in the SEC, just imagine some of the D tackles on Tennessee that they have. Let him fall on Nico multiple times, and he catches him where he falls on his shoulder, the non-throwing shoulder. I just think that's a tough deal. So you have to see that happen over and over and him get up and feel like it didn't bother him at all. And sometimes that kind of plays into the next play.
Yep.
Right? So you want to see all of them go through all these processes to see if he can be the guy. And I think he's mentally tough. And we all know he has the skill and the development and the arm, and he can run around. So just making the right decision, which I think become easy because of this style of offense.
So let me ask you both this. I'm going to pose this question to both of you guys. University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, are you kind of viewing this like a Will Levis preseason game where you're not really concerned about the stats as much as you are concerned about what you were just talking about? And I'll start with you, Blaine. Are you more concerned with the functionality of the offense than you are the stats? Like, Joe Milton could go out there and throw for 300 yards against the University of Chattanooga, but he had a hard time running the offense and being accurate and all this stuff. The other stuff. Is that what you're more interested in this particular week, in this first game of the season?
Yes, because, basically for them, Tennessee, this is going to be like a scrimmage. So he should be able to function the offense. He won't be threatened for a sack or anything like that. It should be smooth sailing as far as the functioning and making decisions in this offense. So, yeah, I like to be free-flowing, and I'm hoping that after probably a series 2 in the third quarter, he's out.
Reed, are you like that, or do you just want stats?
I think it should.
Because you're a fan.
Yeah, it should look like the way the first 2 drives for the Titans offense looked like on Sunday.
Okay.
It should look smooth.
Yeah.
They're doing their own thing. Mm-hmm. If that happens, stats are going to come. Like if they look the way they should, Nico should have 200 yards and 3 total touchdowns.
I love what Reed said right there. And that's kind of a thing that most players who are actually playing in the game feel is you do your job, the stats will come.
Gotcha.
Now, so just think of every position now. Now, sometimes if they don't throw you the ball, you ain't gonna get you're not gonna get any stats.
Right.
But you got to believe that they will come as time goes on. Whether it's in this game, that half, another game, what have you. Keep doing your job. It will come because it's gonna show on the film when you go watch. So I love that statement. Stats come. If you worried about stats as a player, you're going to doom yourself because then you start pressing, trying to make plays.
Yeah.
This is what happens to guys in the NFL because this contract year. Oh, I got to make some plays. The media's talking about I got to make plays. No, you run the offense, you run the defense, and if it come your way, you got to seize the opportunity. Don't force making plays.
Right. You're looking for more Hendon Hooker than you are Joe Milton.
Absolutely.
I mean, obviously that's obvious, but
I'm a hooker.
From a quarterback functionality.
Right. I like the hooker because I like consistency.
Yeah.
Because as a coach, where you're looking at a player, you say, I can trust him. Where Milton, sometimes you go, oh, wow, man, he shouldn't have made that decision. Oh, he overthrew him. Oh, he ran. He shouldn't have ran. The guy was wide open. So I like the guy who shows me, and that's how you build trust, consistency. Play in and play out. Sometimes that's not the splash play, though.
Yeah.
Even though it's the right play.
Reed, I'm going to ask you first. At what point do you want to see Nico out of the game if they're up real big? Is it by 2 touchdowns, just 2 touchdowns? Is that enough? Or where are you at on that?
Well, they're favored by 41.
I know. Listen,
So
does not matter in the college football week 1.
Well, I mean, they're going to win by 30 or more. That's
all
for
right.
sure.
Yeah, the line right now is Tennessee minus 38.5.
Oh, it went down to 38.
Yeah. I'm more of a quarter or half person. So I think he should be out by halftime.
Okay.
So that gives you Gaston more.
As long as they're successful.
Yes, as long as it's not a Georgia State thing like it was 5 years ago. But yeah, I think he should be out by halftime. That gives two other quarterbacks the other two quarters.
If I'm a fan of Tennessee, I think they got to win by 30 or more. We're playing an FCS team. We're in the best conference in the country.
But at what point do you take Nico out?
We're for sure up by 30.
Okay.
Because we're not playing up to the level we are.
Gotcha.
You don't play up to the standard of Chattanooga. You play up to the standard of Tennessee. So if you don't get up by 30, you stay out there until we do.
Get them. I love it. I love it. Let's go to the phones real quick. We got Kyle in Lewisburg who wants to talk about the Tennessee Titans. Kyle, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
What's going on, guys? I just want to talk about that Molden trade. At first, I was like, this don't make any sense. Adams can't play 4 he can't afford. He can't be a box safety at this point. So it didn't make any sense. But then I thought we picked up Woods. And I started studying him. I went to Kyle's film room last night. I started watching all his college camps and things.
Okay. We're going to bring Kyle back. He's breaking up a little bit.
What did the robot say?
Yeah, he's breaking up a little bit. I heard that he didn't understand the Elijah Molden trade, and then he started talking about Julius Wood. And I want to get, while we're waiting on getting him back on the line, getting Kyle back on the line, Football Fred, who says this is slowly becoming his favorite show. Yesterday, I remember you, Football Fred, is in the YouTube chat, and he says this: Julius Wood has tendencies of looking to make plays. When he goes against elite quarterbacks who will look him off or pump fake, he may get beat. He has a highly reactive ball hawk, love-hate relationship with that. So what are your thoughts on that while we're making sure Kyle's all connected here?
Right. And see, and he's absolutely right. I love this analysis because this is exactly what I saw. But guess what? You can coach him to be patient. You can't coach him to go get
It's like Will Levis, right?
Right. You can he got all the talent.
Yeah.
We can coach out of him. Hey, man, trying to hit the home run every time. Hey, man, think and dunk sometimes the best way to go. Go through your progression reads. If it takes you there, go. Every now and then, you want him to be you. It's kind of, it's like they didn't try to tame Brett Favre, did they? So this is kind of Levis. So I agree with that premise, and I think you can always will him back, but you can never will him forward.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. Okay, we got Kyle back with us. Kyle, you can talk about Elijah Molden now.
What did I get to? Where did I cut out at?
You were cutting out pretty much as soon as you said Elijah Molden.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't like it because I thought he was a solid backup, and our safeties have gotten banged up. Hooker, he gets banged up. You got Diggs, who's 33. I mean, I'm 35. I know what it feels like. Yeah. So I mean, I didn't understand it. I was like, and a 7th round pick, but then I got to thinking, Rand Carthon knows what to do with these 7th round picks. Now he's wheeling and dealing out here. We got some draft picks that are going to be rotational players, so I'll take that. Plus, I think we got an upgrade with Woods from Dallas. I was in the Kyle Scott film room last night for about an hour watching, and that dude, he's got a knack for finding the ball. He can get some picks. He can play nickel.
He can hit.
He's different from the rest of our safeties. He's not as physical, but he's that free safety that we really need. And I wanted to end on this. I'm going to be pulling for Tennessee this weekend, but I'm also going to be pulling for number 25 for Chattanooga, Blaine.
I appreciate it.
There you go.
Hopefully I get a chance to play.
Thanks, Kyle. I loved what he said about Julius Woods, and what's interesting about him is that, and we'll talk more about the waiver wire pickups and what Rand Carthon and Bill Callahan had to say in the next segment. But I do want to go ahead and just throw this out there, and it's Julius Wood, not Woods. So I got to make sure I take off that S when I do this. But he said that he got a text from Bones Fossil. John Fassel for the famous special teams coordinator.
Yeah, Jim Fossil's son.
Yeah, Jim Fossil's son. He basically was like, damn you, hopefully I could say that. That's a good pickup, one of his core guys, and there's not a special teams coach in the league that I respect more than Bones. So that's a good high praise for an undrafted free agent that you were able to claim that another special teams coach went out of his way to cuss at you because they were hoping they could get him back on the field. Back on the practice squad.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear. You watch him on tape, on film, and not just pro, college. I went back and watched him. He went to East Carolina, and he stands out with his passion and love for the game. And you see his tenacity, I guess, and his fire. I like players like that. That's why I don't even, outside of Adams and Diggs, Hooker plays the game like he's a professor.
Yeah.
This kid plays it like he's a renegade. And I like those
You like
renegades.
that?
You just got to tame the renegade, when to turn it on and turn it off. There's a time and a place to go chop somebody's head off. There's another time to go after that rock, and he's got it. He's got it.
That
So he
seems
just gotta
like
figure
something
it out.
that Steven Jackson and Denard Wilson are well equipped to do, right?
They do.
To tame the renegade.
They got attack dogs.
Yeah.
Man, and you can see it in film. It's funny. Like, I can't even believe that they cut him.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
You would think with 2 interceptions and
now you gonna
the
fall into
special teams
sacks.
coach, special teams coach loving him, the most respected coach in all of football right now for your
why
team.
did it happen?
Yeah.
Why did it happen?
Just roster management. They didn't do what the Tennessee Titans did and select the best 53 regardless of position.
We caught him slipping.
Yeah, caught him slipping. Sometimes that happens, and the Tennessee Titans watched the film. These were the only 2 waiver claims that they made, and they got awarded, according to Rand Carthon, the only 2 waiver claims that they made. So these were the 2 guys that they wanted. These were the 2 guys they spent hours and hours and weeks of preseason tape analysis watching. And there you go.
I'm raising my hand.
Yeah.
How do we know they only tried to do 2
Well, that's
plays?
what they said.
I
We got
know
to take
that.
them at their word.
I know, but we can't. I'm going to start to set the
Okay.
tone. We can't pick and choose when we want to believe them.
Yeah.
They've seemed to be believable from this point.
Yeah.
I mean, all offseason, everything else. And he went out of his way to say that. So
Yeah.
I want to believe him, but let's not at times not believe them when
Yeah.
they say something.
Well, I do know that there are at least 2 players that they did not put in claims on because they announced the teams that tried to put in claims
who was
on.
that?
It was 2 guys the Carolina Panthers got. I don't know
so it
who
was
it was off the top of my
cornerbacks?
head.
Yeah, they
2
were looking for some
cornerbacks.
Yeah.
So there's that. But I do find it interesting that at least they recognized and acknowledged that, hey, okay, so let me ask you something. You called Amani Hooker a professor.
Mm-hmm.
What would you call Elijah Molden?
Professor, too.
Okay, so they got rid of one professor.
Right.
They kept the tenured professor, and they got the renegade. This to
That's what you
me,
got.
and we'll talk about this after the break. This
reminds
to
me of
me is
something
a
I know.
lot about them getting guys out of here that they can get out of here that don't fit their system, and we'll talk more about that after the break. So when we come back, we'll talk about that. Take your calls, 615-737-1045. And I'm Zach. He's Blaine. This is Blaine and Zach on 1045 The Zone. All right, we're shaking our moneymaker on this Tennessee Titans football Thursday. We got a lot to get to. I'm Zach. He's Blaine. This is 104.5 The Zone. Make sure you are calling in with your opinions on the Tennessee Titans roster move, 615-737-1045. But also, we have teamed up with Tennessee Titans defensive lineman Jeffrey Simmons to help promote his inaugural fundraiser for his nonprofit, Give Him a Reason, on September 16th at Hall's Chop House in Nashville. Jeffrey started Give Him a Reason in 2022 to give something to Nashville's youth that he didn't have growing up in hopes to inspire them, grow their self-esteem, and give them opportunities they may not otherwise have through hands-on activities. For individual sponsorships and tickets, please email Abigail at william-raymond.com. And hey, guess what? Jeff will be on Ramon, Kayla, and Will tomorrow morning at 8:20 a.m. to talk more about the event and give them a reason. So that should give you a reason to listen to the show.
If you weren't already listening.
If you weren't already listening.
Yeah.
Which you should always be listening to every station on 104.5 The Zone. You can listen to all the shows on the 104.5 The Zone app. Go to the App Store and search 104.5 The Zone and download it. Look at that. I'm just like hitting all the professional stuff right there.
You're a pro now.
Tying it all together. Okay, so before the break, we were talking about how this team's actions maybe speak louder than words. And I kind of broached this subject last night on Football and Other Efforts, which is out every Wednesday. And I was talking about this, and then Mike Herndon put out this tweet, friend of the show, Mike Herndon, and it says, out of the 23 players that John Robinson drafted from 2020 to 2022, 23 players, just 5 remain on the Titans' 53-man roster today. Dylan Radins, Traylon Burks, Roger McCreary, NPF, Chika Okonkwo. So it seems to me with Elijah Molden being traded, and while Dylan Radins ended up getting the right guard job, they sure tried their best not to just flat out give it to him, because if Sadiq Charles hadn't retired, Sadiq Charles may be the starter. It seems like this staff and coaching staff or front office staff, maybe they don't intend this to be what their actions say, really seem to be pushing out the old guard for the most part. The players that have not proven to be good enough to their standards or fit their system have found themselves off the roster. What are your thoughts on that?
I completely agree with your last synopsis there. And that is, I don't think it's happenstance that none of these guys kind of fit the scheme. If you would have hired a different coach and maybe they ran a different scheme on offense or defense, maybe some of these guys would still be here. But I think the personality type, at least as far as on defense, is they want guys who are dogs. They get after it. They don't take any smack. They get after the quarterback. They're attacking players who doesn't take any crap. And I think that's the personality type. And then you have to then fit them athletically. So it's pretty clear the guys who could still play, didn't fit their system or scheme, and whether it was on offense, defense. And I think that's why they got, not necessarily because it was John Robinson's guy. And I'm going to say this. I think it even goes further. They just don't believe that you were where you should be. As I kept saying, Molden's not a starter in this league. Well, I think they thought the same thing. Now, his contract is up after this year. So they did the same thing the Rams did. Good, solid player, backup guy. But if we can get value, Malik Willis, we can get value out of him. We know he's not going to be here next year. Why not trade them? Or cut them, bring them back on the practice squad. Trey Avery, undrafted, right? Randall. I mean, these guys can still play. It's just that the roles they were in, they're not quite there in this system.
Yeah.
In this system. So that's why I kept saying about Trey Avery. I thought he's not a man-to-man, every down type of dude. He doesn't have that kind of speed. Now, can he get by with, playing man-to-man, 1 out of 3 downs? Yeah. But when you say every down, now you're exposing him. You're exposing him in his limitations of what he is as a player. So I think they made, it's hard to, disagree with any of their moves that they made. To be honest, I really thought Malik Willis wasn't fighting for the 2. He wasn't. I think they were trying to display him so he could get traded. That's why he started. Remember, I kept saying, why is he starting, though? It was weird. And then they bring in Rudolph, and then he comes back in. See, they're trying to get a perception from afar that he is actually competing for the 2, when in reality, Rudolph was the two
Yeah.
all day long. It was, you go out there and watch practice. He wasn't better than them. So I think they did a good job on that side of it as well to make those guys available. We saw, Molden play a lot in the preseason as well as Avery and everybody else. So I thought they did a great job. I think those players could still play. I just think not in these systems.
Well, let's expand a little bit on that, or let me phrase.
And I think these coaches give them fair opportunity to prove that their thought process that they could fit. Yeah, and that's how coaches are supposed to operate.
So is it a little bit of a development issue from the prior regime's coaching staff, or is it more of this system, defensive and offensive systems that they're putting in place, is just so drastically different and requires different things than these players can give them?
I think that's on an individual basis as a player. Yeah. Like Otis Reese, he started showing signs that, maybe potentially he could be a star in this league. Well, with this system, I thought he showed that he just got injured. And it was a totally different scheme. So it just depends each individual player how they fit, and then what did they address in the draft? That also can hurt you too.
Yeah,
depending on where you're at in your career. I think those points are valid, but I think every player it's an individual situation.
Gotcha. We'd love to hear your thoughts. 615-737-1045. When we come back after the break, we're going to dive deeper into the press conferences from yesterday and today, talk about some of the interesting things that were said about your Tennessee Titans. At 2:20 p.m., we have the managing editor of Titan Size, Justin Melo, joining us to talk all things Titans. And then at 2:45, we have Audrey Kidd, executive director of Saddle Up, to talk about the upcoming charity event, Chuckers for Charity, and they'll be in studio. So for Blaine, I'm Zach. This is Blaine and Zach on 104.5 The Zone.
You ever wonder why so many pro athletes go and use stem cell therapy? Because it works. I'm Ron Slade, retired 14-year pro basketball player, and I needed to get this done. After I went through my entire career riddled with injuries, I needed therapy, so I went to Kellum Stem Cell Institute out in Franklin. Why? Because they're the stem cell specialists. They can be yours too. They're the stem cell specialists of the Tennessee Titans. You know why? Because it works.
Make an appointment today with Kellum Stem Cell Institute.
It's a Tennessee Football Thursday. We're rolling as hour 2 begins here on Blaine and Zach on 104.5 The Zone. Hey, listen, you can call. Tell us what you feel about this Tennessee Titans team, what you feel about your Tennessee Volunteers. We're taking all kinds of calls. Just tell us how you feel in general. If you
Just
want
good
to.
or bad.
If you need dating advice, marriage advice, I'll give it out for free. I'll do it.
I'll let Reed do that.
Yeah.
Since he's the only one not married.
There you go.
I give great advice.
You do, Reed. You do.
So call into 615-737-1045. We'll talk to you about anything. We're just two fun-loving guys that are ready to hear from you. You can also get in the YouTube chat if you want to, the F&M Bank chat. I always call it YouTube chat, but it's the F&M Bank chat on Zone TV over at Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live. I'm not a big Twitch guy, but apparently people are. We always have
Twitch, please.
Yeah, there you go. I just, I never use that. I'm that generation or that age where I missed like the big streaming, video game streamers and stuff. Even though I'm a video game guy, I'm just
So
missed it.
you 4 hours a day on video.
No. Now, sometimes if I get a little lost in the sauce.
The weekend.
Yeah, if I get a little lost in the sauce on some college football 25 or Halo, I may.
Yeah, Halo. Yeah, my son's all over that game.
Yeah.
And I think it's addictive. I'm sitting there watching them.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. That seems like it would be.
It's supposed to be a stress reliever, but I actually find myself getting more mad.
Because you got shot?
Yeah, because I got shot or killed or something like that.
Oh, man.
So yesterday, Rand Carthon and Brian Callen sat in front of the media, answered some questions around 3:30 p.m., and they talked about Ernest Jones. And Rand Carthon
put the fourth in his name, right?
Yeah, the fourth. Should I call him Jones the Fourth?
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay, so Jones the fourth, obviously there were some concerns about his knee issues. They were specifically asked about that, and Rand Carthon had a really good explanation on why they're not concerned about the knees issue.
Well, no, I'm not because, I have my intel. I worked in that building for 5-6 years, worked with Les for 9 years, and so I feel comfortable with the information I got out of there and the player that we were bringing in.
So they leaned on his relationships with not only the training staff over at the Rams, but the GM, the scouts, and all that kind of stuff that Rand has built the relationships with over the years and has given him confidence, similar to him leaning on Chad Brinker on the L'Jarius Sneed trade. Something that I've picked up on Rand Carthon is that he's not afraid to leverage relationships to gain information, to make informed decisions. And this Ernest Jones thing, the more you hear people talk about it, Ernest Jones IV himself talking about it, the less concerned I become. It's kind of like the Sneed situation. The less concerned I am about L'Jarius Sneed's practice habits and whether he'll be available.
But he's practicing now. He's
practicing now. Well, this is the thing. So here's some context for L'Jarius Sneed and his practice habits. Last year in the regular season and postseason, so week 1 through the Super Bowl, the Chiefs had 63 practices. He was a full participant for 43 of them. That's 68.3%. He was limited for 14 of them, 22.2%. He did not practice for 6 of those. So 9.5% he didn't practice at all. Out of that 63, only 6 out of 63. Week 17 and 18 were the 6 practices where he didn't practice. Week 17, he still went on to play 98% of the snaps. Week 18, they were in the playoffs, had everything secured. He just rested. He's going to practice and go full go for the most part. Maybe it's not like really strenuous or anything, but he's likely to be listed as L'Jarius Sneed knee, full participant throughout the week more often than not.
Yeah, and I don't know the context of really what's the extent of how much he was practicing in those numbers. But what I can say, I'm going to give this scenario is what I'm assuming happened to him last season. For him to come out and say that he's going to be practicing now full go every day. And that is, what if he needed to get his knee scoped? He had a torn meniscus. I'm just giving a scenario. I don't know if this is true, and I definitely know. This is just a guess. And he says, you know what? I can fight through this injury and continue to play. I'm giving this example because this is exactly what I did.
Yeah.
All right. I can continue to play, but I'm going to have to miss some practices after these games because it swells up because it knows I need to get surgery.
Yeah.
Right. Just a little scope, 3-6 weeks or whatever it may be. And I think I can manage through it. And then they go, okay, well, we can manage you through this process. But after the season, we're going to have to give you a scope. So maybe putting it in that context and window, maybe it's not a knee issue. It's just he fought through an injury because he didn't want to miss any games. Guess what was at stake, guys? What? His contract year. See, that's why he didn't want to play. So I'm taking you behind the curtain of how an athlete in the NFL actually thinks. Because what it's all about, availability.
There you go.
Now, you had to have somebody to believe in that that's not a constant, and I don't know if it is or not. Obviously, they wanted to rest him as long as they could, and then all of a sudden he says he's going to be practicing every day, so they wanted to make sure maybe he got it scoped. I have no idea. And then now they wanted to fully heal throughout this summer and not risk it. I don't know. Maybe it's just a chronic arthritis. I have no idea. But, and now he feels fine. So I'm hoping that's the case because, boy, when you watch him on film in a game,
yeah.
Oh, I've watched this kid since he was in college. I had a buddy of mine whose kid was on Louisiana Tech's team, and he was on that team. So I got to see him, and I was on defense. He played nickel, he played corner, and he played safety. Throughout the time, my friend's kid was there, and I was like, oh, wow, this dude is pretty good. He showed physicality all along all the positions. So I'm actually pretty familiar with him. I didn't know he was going to have this much success on the outside at corner because there's an element of his deep end speed. But when you're getting your hands on him, you got them long arms, you ain't got to worry about that. So, yeah. So I'm excited for him. So, yeah, I'm interested to see all these pieces come together. So I don't know if that's the situation with the linebacker, Jones IV, that they traded for, but He still had on a long knee sleeve yesterday.
He probably will, right? Don't you think?
But did he have surgery or did he not?
I've heard that people say. Yeah, I've heard that people say it's just maybe just draining, but I don't know for sure. So whatever it is, Rain Carthon and company and this staff are not concerned,
right?
Because and he even said on Buck's show that he's been talking to the Rams even before Chance Campbell went down for injury on the Ernest Jones trade, which I thought was really interesting. So Ernest Jones the fourth,
right? Yeah, the fourth. So if Chance Campbell didn't get hurt, what did you think would happen with Gibby? Because they would have traded for him.
I don't know. I know.
Because Chance Campbell would have been making the team. So there was no way around that.
Yeah.
So and maybe things worked out for the best for what direction they were going, at least.
Well, one direction that they went, they kept 5 tight ends, a big discussion that we have talked about. Now, obviously, they mentioned today in the Breakfast with Brian that the linebackers and tight ends, the reason they have so much is because they're playing crucial role in special teams.
Are you talking about the kickoff rule?
Yeah. So they're doing something with these tight ends and these linebackers on the kickoff rule that I guess adding some beef, but beef with athleticism, some size and strength.
Right, they can play in space.
Yeah,
because
play in space. So, but Brian Callahan and Rain Carthon were asked about keeping 5 tight ends on the roster yesterday, and here's what they had to say.
Yeah, it's more the latter if you're trying to put them in a bucket, because I think that we felt like between DMR and Thomas that we had two guys that fit 2 different positions in the tight end room, both equally well, and it's hard to find tight ends. They're not the good ones are generally difficult to find, and we've gotten 2 guys that Thomas has been poured into over 3 years now, and so you'd hate to put Thomas on waivers and now he's somebody else's gain for all the work you put into the player. And then DMR was again young, athletic, talented. That those guys usually don't make it through waivers. Not to say they would or would not have. We'll never know. But that was by design, as we wanted to keep our young players that we think at a position that it's hard to develop and it takes time to develop at, to make sure we had young guys in the room that we felt really good about.
That was Brian Callahan on if keeping 5 tight ends is a decision based on what they want to do on offense or if they were trying to keep the best players possible. And he said it was about trying to keep the best players possible. So he thinks that all 5 of those tight ends are the best players possible. Now, they cut Nick Vanette, but they expect to put him back on the 53. It was more of like making room. This too, right? Yeah, he said that yesterday. There's more about making room because he doesn't have to clear waivers. If you cut another person, they may have to clear waivers and you may lose them. So they cut Nick Vanette. Going to bring him back to the 53.
Before you move forward, though, real quick on, I don't want to, but the Vanette. So they believe then that nobody will pick him up.
Well, no, he's not getting claimed though. He doesn't have to go through waiver wire.
Somebody could still sign him.
Yeah, but I think what they say, it's like hey, you're coming back. Don't worry about it. You're coming back kind of deal.
No, what I'm getting at is you could always say that 99%. And that guy could actually say I won't. But guess if your agent says, hey man, I got somebody to double down and give you double the money to make it. But he gone.
Yeah, well, but nobody's probably going to do that right now.
Why are you saying that?
Because their rosters are filled out.
If they think he's better than the player they got.
I would say that probably not many people have a better 3rd tight end, 4 tight end situation than Nick Vanette.
What I really want you to say is nobody was going to sign him.
Well, nobody was going to sign him.
Exactly.
There you go.
That was my whole point.
But that's why they cut him.
Right.
But they also think that he's one of the best 53 players.
That's true.
Yeah.
But he wasn't better than the other tight end, the younger ones.
We don't know.
Because they have more upside. Based off of
we don't know how they feel.
Well, how they released them. They would have released one of the other.
Well, they couldn't because those guys would have to go through waivers.
Whatever.
It's a strategy is what I'm trying to put out there.
Okay.
Yeah,
because it's a strategy.
Yeah, because you have to make room for like 24 hours. Yeah. Okay, because you got to get the Elijah Molden trade finalized, and then he comes off the roster. Then you can immediately bring back Nick Vanette. Those other guys get to go through waivers. If you cut Odukoya or cut DMR, they automatically go through waivers, so then you have a real chance of actually losing someone. So it's all a strategy.
Yeah, my strategy would be Nick Vanette would have got cut, and I'd wait till after the first regular season game. That way his contract's not guaranteed, and then bring him back.
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
Well, I know Kyle's on the line. Kyle, real quick, you can before we go to break, we're up against the break. Kyle in Springfield, he has a called shot since he can't call in tomorrow. Called shot today for the games tonight. Kyle, give us your called shot.
Boys?
What's going on?
Got a quick call shot for y'all. North Dakota State by a field goal, boys.
All right, North Dakota State by field goal by Kyle in Springfield.
Over who?
He hung up.
That's over Colorado.
Yeah, over Colorado.
Oh, they play Colorado?
Yeah. North Dakota State wins by a field goal.
Who's favored in that game?
Oh, Colorado.
By 9.5, I believe.
Colorado's favored by 9?
Yep.
Yeah.
North Dakota State is going to win that game.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah, they better quit
There's
messing
your
with
little
that.
call shot, too.
Yeah, they better not quit messing with North Dakota State now. Them guys up there can coach.
When we come back, we'll be joined by Justin Melo, who broke a lot of the news yesterday, if not almost all of it, regarding the Tennessee Titans transactions. Justin Melo is, of course, the managing editor of Titansize.com. I'm Zach. He's Blaine. This is Blaine and Zach on 104.5 The Zone.
Hey, Tennessee, summer's in full swing, and Cool Ray's here to make sure your home is ready for all the fun and the sun. And we've got some sizzling deals that will keep you comfortable and worry-free all season long. So ensure your family stays hydrated and healthy with free water quality testing, because nothing beats a refreshing drink of pure water on a hot summer day. And Cool Ray also offers a $149 main sewer line camera inspection. Right now, they also offer 15% off whole home dehumidifiers, as well as $500 off whole home generators. So let Cool Ray take care of your home so you can focus on family memories. So call us today and take advantage of these scorching hot deals. Cool Ray, your trusted partner for a cool and comfortable Tennessee summer. And all you have to do is visit coolray.com. Cool Ray, keeping Tennessee cool, plumbing right, and always lights bright.
It's a Tennessee Football Thursday here on Blaine and Zach on 104.5 The Zone. We are going to the 104.5 The Zone hotline to talk to Justin Melo of Titans, managing editor of Titansize.com and new author of a Tennessee Titans book. Tell the people a little bit about that book, Justin Melo, which is called Titans of the South, Photographs and History of the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, it's available September 17th. We officially got the release date in September. So September 17th, it's be available where all books are sold. If you get your books from Amazon, you can get it on there. Barnes & Noble, you can get it on there. If you're someone that likes to shop at that pesky little, mom and pop bookstore, you can probably get them to order it. It's on their list. So where all books are sold, it chronicles the entire history of the Tennessee Titans going back to the Houston Oilers days. So all, 63 seasons in franchise history are covered from 1960 to 2023. That is schedules, lineups, stats, season summaries of every year. I'm 34 years old. I had to cover 63 seasons. So I can fairly tell you that a lot of research went into this book over this past couple of years, and I'm so excited for everyone to get their hands on it September 17th.
Do I get at least one page, Justin? Am I in there, man, somewhere?
Blaine, you are mentioned a ton. I think we got a full color photo of you on there. We're still waiting on the address.
I was just making sure you got that check I sent you. Okay, I was just making sure.
I'm pretty sure you got 97% of the royalties coming your way.
I want a Blaine Bishop cover of the book. I want a Blaine Bishop Hitman special.
I don't think so.
Sent to the studio.
I think that was more like Warren Moon, McNair, or Eddie, or somebody, Earl Campbell.
You guys will be getting a physical copy of the book when it releases here in a couple of weeks' time. And I do have to say, the year Blaine was drafted, look, those summaries, they're only about 250, 300 words. I had to ensure we got that sentence in there where they drafted this little-known safety. What was it, the 8th round, Blaine?
Yeah, at the time. Yeah, 214. 214, yeah.
214th overall in the 8th round that ended up being a gem for the franchise.
Oh, man.
All right, well, let's talk about some of the more recent Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, not those
and
old
maybe
heads,
even
man.
the next Tennessee Titans, because you put out a tweet yesterday after the Elijah Molden trade that you were told by team source that Elijah Molden was unhappy in Tennessee. Now he's been traded to the Chargers, hence the Julius Wood waiver claim. So I got a two-parter for you, Justin. First, what was your initial reaction to the Elijah Molden trade? And can you expand a little bit? If you can't, you can't, but just figured I'd ask.
Yeah, I had an inkling that he was unhappy. I heard it from someone in the building. To be totally blunt with you, I didn't even expand on it when I heard that he was unhappy because I've been around long enough to say 1 + 1 is 2. Presumably he enters training camp as the starting safety. People forget that. He entered camp as the starting safety. Right? They hadn't drafted one. They hadn't signed anyone in the initial waves of free agency. Well, and all of a sudden, what was it, June 6th, July 6th, they bring in Jamal Adams. And then about 3.5 weeks later, they bring in Quandre Diggs. If I had to guess, that was probably the source of his unhappiness. Now, I don't know that for a fact, but I did know for a fact that he was unhappy, and I don't believe in coincidences. Not coincidences that big. For me to hear he's unhappy, he got traded 14 hours after I heard that, right? And then when Rand Carthon and Brian Callahan were talking about it, I believe earlier today or last night, they had said, gives him a chance to get a fresh start elsewhere. So again, I think reading between the lines, it didn't sound like he was thrilled with the situation. I get it. You enter camp thinking you're going to be a starter. Now I'm fourth string all of a sudden, running second, third team, whatever it was he was running. So presumably all the acquisitions were probably the source of his unhappiness.
This morning you said that Titans undrafted free agent, wide receiver who is now on the practice squad, Bryce Oliver, had alternate options, but decided to sign with Tennessee's practice squad per your source. Among the teams that attempted to get Oliver onto the practice squad was the New York Jets. Now, Brian Callahan this morning says he cautioned wide receiver Bryce Oliver about leaving the Titans to join another team's practice squad. This comes from Sam Phelan. This is an investment in Oliver in Tennessee, and Oliver is familiar with the system here. Oliver had interest from the other teams, like you said. So talk a little bit about what went into Bryce Oliver's decision, and obviously Brian Callahan really gave him the sales pitch to stick around in Tennessee.
Well, it sounded like a couple teams had reached out. That was the word that I had gotten. It was more than one, but the New York Jets were one that certainly felt strongly about him and tried to convince him, to join their practice squad instead. Kudos to Brian Callahan. I think he's a straight shooter. He told it exactly like it is. I imagine he said, hey, we've invested in you. We've coached you up here. We've got a good receivers coach in Tyke Tolbert, and we want to keep you around. To my knowledge, that was conveyed to him from the beginning. Like when they released it, or waived him is the official word I'm learning. When they waived him during final cuts, they had informed him, from what I understand, that they weren't interested in keeping him on the practice squad. So he knew they wanted to keep him around. But, you got to play the process, right? Your agent's going to get a couple offers. You're going to hear from other teams, yada, yada. You're going to take those pitches as you should. And when he got one, at least one from the New York Jets, he remembered what Callahan told him, and he believed in what they said. And look, it's a good opportunity. No one's handing him anything, certainly, but we know next year that this receiver room could look very different, right? With guys like Hopkins and Boyd entering contract years in 2024, we don't know who's going to be around. Traylon Burks will probably still be a thing that's up in the air. Of course, Mason Kinsey's still going to be there, and he's going to have to beat out Mason Kinsey in training camp, but I think he sees a good opportunity here. He played well in the preseason. He believes in the coaching that he got from Callahan, Coach Tolbert, and everyone else. And he sees an opportunity to develop here, and that's why he decided to stay.
You mentioned Brian Callahan being blunt with Bryce Oliver, but he's also been blunt with the media, talking about, for case in point, talking about 5 tight ends, talking about the best 53. We're going to make this roster regardless of position. And more importantly, talking about why Julius Chestnut made it over Hassan Haskins, because he was just the better runner. And he's been saying that for a few weeks. You've been around covering the league, following the Titans very closely, been through many coaching changes. This feels like a dramatic, change of pace in words matching actions for the most part, and that what they're telling you is what they're going to do. How has that been, what kind of adjustment have you had to make in your thinking going from, Mike Vrabel to Brian Callahan, and how you assess this team's roster needs, how you assess their draft needs, now that we're getting to know more and more about Brian Callahan and Ran Carthon's team?
Well, that's a really good question. And the answer is, I think I'm still learning. I don't think I'm perfect, because I'll tell you one thing. If you would have told me that and this is probably silly of me to say, but if you would have told me they're going to release cuts, whatever word you want to use, Hassan Haskins, Anthony Kendall. There was one more special teams guy. It's on the tip of my tongue. That was a really good player for them last year on special teams. If you would have told me they were going to cut all 3 of those guys, I wouldn't have believed you. I would have said, they got to keep at least one of those guys around for special teams. Well, Mike Vrabel's team certainly would have, right? I think Mike Vrabel's team would have kept probably Hassan Haskins, right, as a 4th running back. And I think Anthony Kendall maybe would have even had a better chance sticking around if this was Mike Vrabel's team still. So I do think you're seeing a shift. Now, they did keep Luke Gifford, mind you. That's a lot of inside linebackers, and Gifford is almost certainly a special teams only guy. So it's not like they're throwing special teams out the window and it doesn't matter at all. But I do think very clearly there are some changes going on with roster construction. I mean, very obviously dating back to free agency and whatnot. But Callahan's been very honest in how they approach things, and I do think the actions have met those words. Again, 5 tight ends. I mean, we were arguing on, this as well as I do on Titans Twitter. Are they going to keep a 4th? Are they going to keep a 4th? Well, now they got 5, and they cut Nick Van Nett, but now they're re-adding him, right? That was procedural, they announced yesterday. So they've still got 5 tight ends, and they're at 52. So it's not even like they got to cut a tight end to add another player to the active roster. So the tight ends, the off-ball linebackers, there's a ton of those guys as well. It's very obvious here that they are keeping the best 53. And guys like David Martin, Robinson, Odukoya, we probably thought, they're going to be one of the first guys out. I don't think so, right? It's clear those guys are going to stick from what we've seen over these last couple of days.
We're on with Justin Melo of Titans, managing editor of TitanSize.com, contributor at Music City Miracles, draft analyst for the Draft Network, contributor over at the Broadway Sports, and then also co-host of Music City Audible on the 440 Sports Network. I mean, I think I hit everything that you do. You do like 10 things, I think.
As well as his book.
Don't forget, author of Titans of the South. So there's another thing on the resume.
Well, Justin Melo's the man of the people, man. That's for sure. But I guess give us your synopsis of your overall view there, Justin, on the Titans, roster cuts and the decision they made. You kind of touched on a little bit with the 4 tight ends, but just what were your thoughts when you saw what they kept and who they kept, and maybe not keeping enough people at certain positions and more at others?
Well, I didn't think anything was overly shocking in terms of the players they kept. I do think, Odakoya was probably the big surprise at tight end. Everyone had him going down because, people started dot connecting. He had another year left of international pathway eligibility. Mm-hmm. So, and again, you talk about going back to Zach's previous question, the changes. I have no doubt in my mind, Mike Vrabel, John Robinson, they would have taken advantage of that, right? And you could argue it wouldn't have been a silly decision, right? It's essentially a free roster spot. You're going to keep him, keep developing him, give you a chance to get another player. But this staff, Brand Carthon, they say, no, he's earned a roster spot. We don't care that we can cheat the system and keep him another year on the international pathway program. He's earned the 53. So I think that was one of those things that really stuck out to me about this regime. One other little thing, maybe because I'm a bit of a Titans nerd, that stuck out to me is they brought in 2 tackles over the offseason that were familiar with Bill Callahan, right? That was Jerron Christian and Leroy Watson. They both played for him in Cleveland. Mm-hmm. Pretty ironic. Both those guys get, waived, released, and the reserve tackles end up being the guys they inherited from the previous regime, right? Which is John Njoku and Jalen Duncan. So I thought that stuck out to me. Certainly when you talk about the numbers, they're still at 4 cornerbacks. I can't believe that. Yeah, and they've got a spot, right? So I imagine they'll use that spot on a 5th. But Zach, I think you know as well as I do, Carthon also mentioned yesterday that they've got 3 corners on the practice squad, right? They've got Anthony Kendall, for Gabe Judy Lally, there's a third
Trey
on
Avery.
that. Trey Avery, was a third, never escaping him either. They got 3 corners on the practice squad. They will elevate one of those guys for week 1 if they don't add a 5th. But I am looking at that final roster spot and thinking it's got to be corner. A guy like Rocky Sin is one I really like that played for Denard Wilson previously, so that would be one to watch.
Well, he signed with the 49ers yesterday.
Okay.
So
well,
he's off.
Well, you got another guy for us?
yeah, give us another one.
All those things on my resume. I guess I was doing one of them when I missed that. Is Trey Flowers still out there? I think I saw
yes, I think
he was
so.
cut by the Jags, right?
Yeah.
Trey Flowers is another veteran guy, 29, 30 years old, that I think could come in and give them some snaps right away if necessary.
What were your thoughts with Justin Melo with Rashard Weaver getting cut and then keeping Caleb Murphy? What did you think how they played in the preseason?
I was a little surprised. I think Zach was stunned by that one, but I was a little, maybe not as stunned, but I was a little surprised. Didn't play well in the preseason, right? He just flat out did it. And that last game especially was a bit of a nightmare. A couple times lost contained, got bullied by a former first-round bust, right, in Trevor Penning there of the Saints. I looked like me in coverage on that one rep where he was in coverage. There's no chance at all in coverage there. I think the writing's on the wall. Now, they said they might have interest in bringing him back to the practice squad. I'm wondering, though, if this spells the end of his journey in Tennessee. They not only did they keep, Caleb Murphy over him, a guy who I didn't think showed a ton either in the preseason, but does have a bit more developmental upside. He's been in the league for a fewer amount of years, so that alone says there's probably some untapped potential there. But they also, they released him, and they bring in a guy in Ali Gay that's never played a regular season football game, right? This is a guy that got cut by the Texans last year, essentially spent the whole year on the practice squad and then signed a reserve deal with that future reserve contract. Again, cut at final cuts just days ago by the Texans. They were going to put him back on the practice squad, but Tennessee claims him. He goes straight to the 53, and they released Weaver to make that move. So I think for me, this probably spells the end of Rashad Weaver. They'll sign him to the practice squad 10 minutes after I say that, but this probably spells the end of Rashad Weaver in Tennessee.
I would concur. I read this, and I don't know if it's true or not, so, debunk it if you want. 13 teams are carrying 3 or more quarterbacks. I would have never guessed that happened. What are your thoughts when you hear that?
Yeah, I believe I saw that as well, right? I think it was 13 teams kept 3. A couple of those teams, like the New England Patriots, for example, they're one that almost didn't have a choice, right? They drafted 2 of them this year in Drake May, and of course, everyone knows Joe Milton in that great state. And if Jacoby Brissett was named the starter, so they're not getting. In fact, they got rid of a rosterable quarterback in Bailey Zappi because they had too many of them. So, I assume the emergency QB rule played a little part in that. I think people are blowing that a little out of proportion because the chances of both of course it happened to the 49ers in the NFC Championship game, and that's what prompted all this discussion about this third quarterback rule. But the chances of both quarterbacks getting hurt in the same game, they got to be about as good as winning the lottery or getting struck by lightning, right? But I do think that probably played a small role. And I do wonder if teams, were maybe a little bit more willing to keep 3 because they also thought there's going to be a lot of competition for those spots around the league. If we get rid of a guy, maybe we have a harder time adding him to the practice squad. He's going to get picked up somewhere else. So very interesting. I did not expect it to be that much, but yeah, more than 10 teams ended up keeping 3 quarterbacks.
Justin Melo from @The Draft Network.
The Tennessee Titans, Justin, traded for Ernest Jones, and now you wrote an article on August 26th about 3 teams that could potentially be in the hunt for trading for Ernest Jones IV: Atlanta Falcons, Houston Texans, and Carolina Panthers. The Tennessee Titans were, and this was for the draftnetwork.com. The Tennessee Titans were not on your list. So were you a little surprised that the Tennessee Titans traded for Ernest Jones and it came in at such a low cost? And also, I don't know if you heard it today, but Rand Carthon was on the Buck Rising show here on 104.5 The Zone earlier today, and he said that they've been talking to the Rams even before Chance Campbell went down with injury.
Yeah, it's funny. I'll be totally honest here. Sometimes I'll admit the Titans from an article like that because I do so much Titans content. I'm like, I don't want. They're going to think I'm being biased if I include the Titans and everything. They certainly crossed my mind, but so did those other 3. So I don't know that I'd say I was completely shocked that they made the move. I think we've seen that Rand Carthon can be pretty aggressive here. When it comes, 3 trades in the last 4 days. It's pretty astounding the kind of wheeling and dealing he's been doing. But I think what's interesting about this guy is I'm not buying what they're selling in LA. Okay, I'm just going to come out and say it because 145 tackles last year, 4.5 sacks. Then Sean McVay gets up there and says this was a football decision, and they're going to replace him with a UDFA, Omar Speights. Tell me why Omar Speights is not replacing the other linebacker there that's not nearly as good as Ernest Jones is. So what I'm picking up here, in my opinion, is that this is just getting ahead of something, right? They knew they were already involved in the contract-related standoff. They gave it, and it shows you how much happens in this league without the knowledge of the player, unfortunately. They gave his agency permission to seek a trade. He came out and said, I never requested a trade. He was confused by the whole thing because he wasn't even involved in that conversation, is what it sounds like, right? They flat out told his agent, agency's pushing for a deal. I get it. This guy was a late-round pick that's vastly outproduced his rookie deal. He's entering the final year. It's time for every player I talk to, it's that second contract, right? They knew it was time for him to get that deal. I thought that was just the Rams getting ahead of it. Look what they dumped him for. A 5th for a 6th swap. It wasn't even next year. Wasn't it 2026? I think it was. So
Yes.
It's like, yeah, that's just them getting ahead of it. This is a really good football player. Certainly was the best linebacker on the Rams roster. Not one that deserves to be replaced by a UDFA when he's a lot better than the other guy they've got starting there. So this is a really good football player. One that a little bit similar to Kenneth Murray in the sense where he's a very aggressive player that fits what Denard Wilson wants to do up front. He's going to blitz. He had more pressures than any other off-ball linebacker in the NFL last season with 30 of them. This is a damn good football player. He fits the defense. It didn't even sound like the Titans are going to get an extension done right away. That tells you how bad things were in L.A., and he's thrilled to be here, and this is going to be a really, really good move for Wilson and that defense.
Well, thanks for joining us, Justin. Justin Melo, author of Titans of the South, wherever you get your books sold or go online to buy Titans of the South. He's also on the Draft Network. He's managing editor of TitanSize.com, Broadway Sports, 440 Sports. Basically, anywhere that you consume Tennessee Titans content or NFL draft content, Justin's involved. So, Justin, thank you for joining us. When we come back, we'll be joined in studio by Audrey Kidd, Executive Director of Sidle Up, to talk about the upcoming charity event, Chuckers for Charity. I'm Zach. He's Blaine. This is Blaine and Zach on 104.5 The Zone.
For many of you who have lived here a long time, you already know Eurofix has been in Middle Tennessee area for your European car repair needs now for 24 years. We've all gotten to watch them grow. And I don't know about you, but I love watching a hometown business take off. Well, we are now proud to announce the 5th location in Mount Juliet for Eurofix on Mount Juliet Road, right across the street from Dairy Queen. And Eurofix can serve you in Franklin, Hundred Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now Mount Juliet. Pretty cool getting to watch a small town mechanic starting in the barn of his backyard of a single wide trailer and now grow to 5 locations repairing thousands of cars each month. And at Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX, or you can just visit them online at myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com. But always tell them Blaine says so.
All right. Blaine and Zach, final segment here on 104.5 The Zone. We are joined in studio by Audrey Kidd, Executive Director of Saddle Up, and she's going to talk about the charity event for Chuckers for Charity. Tell the people just a little bit about what Chuckers for Charity is and how it supports the Rochelle Center and Saddle Up.
Yes, and Saddle Up.
Thank you.
Of course.
Thanks for having me. This is really great to be here this afternoon. So Chuckers for Charity is a high goal polo event. It's been named by many media in Middle Tennessee as one of the best events of the year. Been around for 28 years.
Oh, wow.
And it's a great opportunity to see some very, very high-level polo and have a great afternoon of fun. It does support the Rochelle Center and Saddle Up. Rochelle Center's been in Middle Tennessee for over 50 years. And Rochelle Center provides opportunities for adults with disabilities to live and work inclusively in the community. And over those 50 years, they have impacted hundreds of lives in Middle Tennessee and do such great work. Saddle Up, we are a therapeutic riding program for children and young adults with disabilities. So we love the fact that this is a polo match because we use the power of the horse every day. And then you come to Chuckers for Charity and get a chance to see some real horsepower being used in a fabulous sport. So it's a pretty great matchup for us.
That's awesome. Now, I know nothing about polo. And you kind of explained that this event's called Legends of the Fall.
Yes.
And you said there are two polo legends, and these legends that are coming are basically the Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes of polo.
That's a perfect description. Yes.
So tell us a little bit more for the polo newbie that I am.
Yeah.
Blaine probably has played polo.
No, I'm a little, I'm a newbie.
He's probably advanced, maybe. Tell us a little bit about polo and why this is an event that people should come watch and spend their afternoon watching, especially in this beautiful weather that's coming ahead.
Yes, 10-day forecast looks great. So polo is high speed, high excitement sport. If you can imagine being a rider on a horse at full gallop in a field that's the size of 3 football fields, you have a big mallet and a very small ball, and you are cracking that ball down the length of that field and into goals at either end of the field. A lot of action, a lot of excitement. Again, there's nothing like being right there on the field, which is where our participants and guests are able to watch from and feel the thundering of those horses, as they fly down the field. So it's not a difficult sport to understand. You get the ball in the goal, and that's a point. And there are 6 chuckers. There are 6 actual segments of time, and usually last an hour and 45 minutes. We make sure that there's a lot of halftime fun, stomping of the divots. If you've seen that in movies or otherwise, we do that. We have stick horse races for the kids. It's really a family-friendly event.
Do you have stick horse races for adults that act like kids?
I know this is going to disappoint you, but you must be 6 or under. However, in your case, I'm willing to make an exception.
I'd probably still lose, by the way. I'm
those
very out
kids
of shape
they're
and
very
slow.
fast. They're very fast, those kids. But it's a great afternoon. We have picnic hampers and special signature drinks, and we bring the mini horses from Saddle Up, so everyone has a chance to get photo ops. And it's a great afternoon with a lot going on. Silent auction, and you can imagine what it's like to be on a big, beautiful farm in Williamson County for the afternoon.
Riverview Farm in Franklin, which is just a glorious spot. And it's just really a great event. And if you've never experienced it, I promise you'll be just a little bit hooked on polo, particularly this year with the level of players that we have. This will be the highest rated polo game the match in the state of Tennessee for the entire year. September 7th, right?
September 7th, absolutely. And you can get all the information you need on chuckersforcharity.net.
Now, Chuckers is Chukkers.
Correct.
Because I would not know that because I would think it would be the Ckers.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Organizations like Rochelle Center and Saddle Up, they're important to our community. Explain how important to the community they are.
I think a community can definitely be evaluated by how we treat individuals who among us who maybe the least of us who need the most support, who are looking to build important and valuable lives and make a contribution back to the community. And so the fact that we have so many wonderful organizations in Middle Tennessee that support individuals with disabilities, I think says a whole lot about the area that we live in. And Rochelle Center and Saddle Up, we're really proud to do the work that we do. We get to focus every day on what is possible, on being the best that you possibly can be, and we never talk about what the kids that ride with Saddle Up can't do, or what the men who
I was
live and work
astonished
with
when
Rochelle.
I came out there a couple months ago.
Right, you came out and we had a great conversation afterward because you were talking to me about how the power of someone believing in you had meant so much in your life.
Absolutely.
And that is so much what we do at Saddle Up in Rochelle is we believe in the individuals that we serve. And, confidence is a powerful thing.
Oh, no doubt about it. And we must not forget to mention the Rochelle Center, Debbie Chadwick, they're the CEO over there. She's right there in Metro Center for others, people who have heard of it before. But I was really astonished and amazed at the programs. And I just wanted to make sure everybody knew about you guys' program, let alone you guys' big time charity event that will be going on here really soon. So I guess finally, before we let you go, how do you say, if you wanted to convey the message of how much impact you guys have had on the people that are part of your program, what would you say that is?
I love that question. Thank you, Blaine. That we have individuals with Saddle Up as an example who have ridden with us for over 20 years. They started out with us when they were tiny, tiny little kiddos. And they are in their 20s now. They're living their best lives. They've got exceptional confidence. They've grown in strength. They've grown in their social skills. I mean, the list of the benefits from therapeutic riding is 17 points long. And so that impact, that lifelong impact, what our kids and our young adults take away is incredibly important, and we see that every day. The same with Rochelle Center. The men at Rochelle Center, again, they live and they work in the community. They are huge contributors. There was an article just this week about one of the men from Rochelle who works at Radnor Lake and is just an excellent member of the Radnor Lake team and gets to be part of expressing his love for nature every day in a job that brings him value. He said, I feel like I'm valued big time. And when someone can say that, you've made a difference. You've made an impact. And that's a lot of what we point to as the impact of these two beneficiaries and these two organizations.
No doubt about it. So give us the date and where they can get all the information before we let you go.
September the 7th at Riverview Farm. All the information and tickets are available at Chuckers for Charity. That's CHUKKERS for FOR charity.net.
Appreciate it.
Well, that was Audrey Kidd, Executive Director of Saddle Up, to talk about that upcoming event, Chuckers for Charity. So make sure you guys go chuckersforcharity.net and learn more about Polo, learn more about the Rochelle Center and Saddle Up and what they do for the community, and make sure you guys donate. This has been Blaine and Zach. I'm Zach, he's Blaine. And in the meantime,
and in between time,
peace.